everybody. James with Rowe-Thrush. Welcome to the next Rowe-Thrush Solution Selling Show. Today, we will be interviewing Tom with Louisville Ladder. Before we bring him on, though, just a little bit about who Rowe-Thrush is. We're a manufacturer rep agency that represents just over 60 suppliers in Granger, ranging from lighting and electrical, material handling, hand tools, pneumatics, safety and security, plumbing, and heating and air conditioning. We have a lot of great resources available to the Granger sales force, such as these live streams that we do, where we bring a different supplier partner on every week, interviewing them, asking them the types of questions that we think, at least, a Granger account manager would like to know. If you're watching this in the future, well, join one of our live streams. That way you could type in whatever question you may have for our suppliers when we interview them. We also have our Rowe-Thrush SharePoint site with our slow transition to a Teams site, which has lots of great resources like videos, all of our suppliers' Grangerized literature available for you to print or download whenever you want. Just lots and lots of great resources for you on our SharePoint site and Teams site. We also jump on regularly district team calls with Granger district teams, talking to them about suppliers and solutions that they can bring as well. With that, I want to bring on Tom with Louisville Ladder. Good afternoon, Tom. How are you today?
Doing great, James. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Hey, it's 2:00. It's we're getting near the end of the hour here, and looking forward to a nice weekend. How about yourself?
Yes, looking forward to it. Been a long week, but looking forward to the weekend. So it'll be great. So
excellent.
Glad to be back.
Yeah, glad to have you back. And, hey, it's National Ladder Safety Month, and we figured this would be a great way to kick off the month, having Louisville Ladder on and getting into the world of ladders and everything that you guys have to offer. So really looking forward to this episode with you.
Absolutely. Ladder Safety Month, what a great way to kick it off, get better educated, and that's 90% of the game.
Yes, exactly. So before we get into who Louisville Ladder is, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? What is it that you do at Louisville? How long have you been there? Maybe a little bit about your history.
Yeah, I've been actually here at Louisville Ladder now for just over 16 years. I'm a sales manager for them. I cover primarily the Western United States on the industrial side, which obviously encompasses Granger. I work very closely with some of the national accounts as well as some of the districts within the regions. Certainly work all the shows, so probably a familiar face there as well. And then I also manage a team of manufacturer representatives through, the western portion of the United States. So encompass all those sales activities in there and travel probably 50-60% of the time. So that's pretty much it.
Yeah, you're a busy guy, and you were down at the Granger sales meeting a couple weeks ago. What were your thoughts overall? How do you think the show went for you guys?
Yeah, what a fantastic show. We missed Florida, we'll tell you that. But it was nice to have a show in my backyard for once. So that was actually pretty nice as well. But as far as the show went overall, we had great interaction with pretty much all the sales force that had come by. We were able to introduce our new products, and more importantly, you'll go into some of the compliance issues that some of the sellers really don't know, because we always get boiled into James, some of the old age old of price and getting banged up, and we're able to give those guys a little bit more outside of price, and it kind of leads into more things like we're doing today for an education standpoint. Because I can tell you, we're in safety month as well. It's not just the ladder safety issues as well as compliance issues, because compliance issues can get you in as much trouble as some of the safety issues. Even though you may not physically be hurting somebody, when you start getting into these fines and things, that's obviously a lot of exposure, to companies. And those are some of the things we want to call attention to and help with prevention. And we think we're aligned very well to do that. But Houston show certainly gave us the opportunity to get in front of those sellers and to spread that word. So very positive.
Excellent. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. It was a fantastic show. Unfortunately, a little short, and with that, I didn't have enough time to engage everybody that I wanted to at the show. So, it is what it is. Next year we'll be back in Orlando, and customers will be coming as well. So, can't wait for that. Definitely looking forward to it. So, one more question before we get into Louisville Ladder. Last time we had you on, the question of season one was, what is your favorite movie and why? You had said The Sandlot and Field of Dreams are kind of like your two go-to movies as far as your favorites. Both excellent movies. I've enjoyed both of those many times. Watched The Sandlot a while ago with my son for the first time, and he fell in love with it and wanted to watch it again right away. And I said, well, I'm not that kind of person. You can watch it on your own, bud. Sorry. but this season, the question is, what is your favorite band or album and why?
Oh, I would probably have to say ZZ Top is one of my favorite bands. Obviously, being from Texas, and believe it or not, one of the band members actually lives on the edge of my subdivision. It's actually Frank Beard, the drummer. So,
oh wow,
pretty big fan of ZZ Top.
Awesome. I love ZZ Top too. I grew up watching MTV back when they used to play music videos, and always loved seeing the ZZ Top music videos, them twirling their guitars around, when there'd be a break at one point, and just a great band. Unfortunately, lost one of the band members probably about 2-3 years ago or so.
Yeah,
it was fairly recent.
Yeah, they did, and they're actually touring again. So, but yeah, they did. They lost Dusty a couple of years ago. So, he was a great musician.
Yeah. Always, like I said, always enjoy their music. It's some good music there from them. Love the blues vibe as well. So excellent pick there. Thank you for sharing that. So now getting into the actual show. When it comes to Louisville Ladder, please, tell us a little bit about who you are, a little bit about the history and backbones of Louisville.
Yes, we just celebrated our 75th year, and we originated as a ladder manufacturer based in Louisville, Kentucky. We have actually moved manufacturing down to Monterrey, Mexico. So we are taking care of, some of the global resources, in particular labor, that was able to be a big help for us. But in regards to the company itself, we are primarily in the climbing category, which we do obviously aluminum and fiberglass ladders, step-in extensions, and then we do some attic stairwells as well. Our primary customers on the industrial channel is obviously Grainger. We do a very good job with Grainger on the industrial side. And a lot of that has to do with their distribution network, how to get products from A to B. And I think that they, outside of a lot of companies through the pandemic, that Grainger did a better job than most, just from a supply channel standpoint. So for us partnering as a manufacturer, as kind of stated earlier, we're able to spread our word a little bit in their diverse sales force. They're an international player as well. And we've actually been vendor of the year with Grainger down in Mexico, and we're up for the award. I think it was 3 years ago here stateside. So those are things that we're very proud of as a manufacturer. And we think that our diversity helps to bring that to companies like Grainger. So, but again, we're primarily in the climbing category. We had some dependency on China. When I say that, some of the steel products, we got away from those during the COVID years, simply because supply channel challenges. We couldn't tell people when we would have something, and it didn't make sense to sell something that we didn't know when we were going to get. So it was some small pains overall. At the time, we felt maybe earth-shattering, but looking back, they were probably good storms to weather, even though they caused a few headaches, but I think, if you look at all the manufacturers in general, we were all certainly challenged with the different issues on the supply channel. we're still challenged in today's market, but it's not near what it was, 2 years ago. We're better now than we were a year out, and a year out we should be better barring any unforeseen circumstances. So certainly going in the right direction. But Granger's seen some of the supply channel issues as well, mostly on distribution standpoint, moving goods from point A to point B with drivers and things like that. So even once the goods are made, moving them around has become a problem as well. So the challenges still exist, but today's challenges will be gone tomorrow, and then tomorrow will bring additional challenges. So, but
yeah, there's always something going on, and that actually is still one of those questions that I get very regularly, still to this day, as far as how is this supplier or that supplier's supply chain. So, thank you for addressing that yourself, being upfront about it. That yeah, you had a problem with it or an issue. It's gotten a lot better. It's still not perfect, but you're much better than you were a couple years ago or even a year ago, and just glad that that things are getting better for you, as what I've been hearing from many of our suppliers as well. So thank you for sharing that. Now, when it comes to customer business issues that that an account manager would want to talk to a customer about, safety is going to be one of those big ones with Louisville. I think productivity as well is something else. I always like to talk about your platform ladders and about how they can actually increase productivity, because with a platform, your entire foot is on a surface versus a 2-inch rung, and you don't get fatigued as quickly. Could you go into a little bit more about productivity and safety and some of those key features? And if you want to, I could pull our Pinnacle platform ladder over here, or we also have a cross step as well, if you want me to show anything in particular.
Certainly, I may talk in a little bit a roundabout way, but I promise you what we will get to the point of what we're talking about. So let's start out about last week. When you look at that room in Houston, you've got literally hundreds of manufacturers in there, and no disrespect to a ladder, but it's not the sexiest of products that's in that room, especially when I'm faced with power tools and things of that nature and the demos going on. So. But I always quick to point out once I get a seller there is what makes me different from everybody else in the room. And I'm going to go straight to compliance and safety. Obviously, safety month is where we're at. So OSHA rates incidents two different ways, James. It's number of occurrences, and then it's they rate those occurrences by dollars. And so we're always in the top 10, a number of occurrences. We're always number 5 or 6. And then we're always in the top 5, $1 per occurrence, with the average claim being about 80 grand. So those are very, very real numbers. And then if you add the small portable scaffolding that we get into, we go straight to number 1. So while I don't have the coolest of products, it's one of the most important products. And so I can command attention. And that's part of the things that I do with the sellers is saying, hey, what do you do with this information that's out there? So once you're able to get that attention, typically they'll listen to you. So then we're able to talk about some of these things. So we don't want to necessarily sell on the gloom and doom. I mean, obviously it's out there and that's exposure. But once you have their attention, you want to talk about compliance issues, because some of the things, that's costing these companies money is not just necessarily the cost of the good itself. It's the cost of that good over the longevity of that product. As it starts to wear out its labels, labels are a big issue. Did you get fined for that? That's, $1,200-$1,500 fine. Do you have a guy going to, the top 2 steps of a step ladder? That's another fine. You kind of led in with the platform ladder. So when you talk about gaps in solution selling, let's talk about some of these things that we can do to reduce some of this exposure. So when you talk about a traditional step ladder, the problem with that particular product is that somebody can go to the top 2 steps, and we see that on a daily occurrence. So our point of attack is going to be, hey, what if we give you something that your guys can't do something wrong on? So we go straight to the platform ladder. Well, people go, Tom, you're a salesman, you're going to your most expensive product. Partly true, but in all honesty, the platform ladder is the safest ladder because of, just like you said, if they're on that ladder any period of time, it's going to increase productivity. You're going to have a nice work platform at the top, and then it's going to be a lot more comfortable over, because fatigue does become an issue. So if you're able to keep a guy on a ladder for an additional 15 minutes outside of coming off of that ladder, you're certainly going to save on productivity issues as well. So with that being said, the platform ladders are truly one of a kind. And that's where we're going to focus our attention. And then we're also going to go into the cross step ladder, which you had mentioned earlier. And we'll kind of, I don't know if you're able to show it when we go along, but if you kind of hold it up, James, if you can show the back side of it, or the side, what I'm trying to show, that's perfect right there. What I'm actually trying to show is how that ladder is constructed, where the rear horizontals don't come up all the way underneath the top cap. So that's going to do a couple of things for you. The first thing it's going to do is, if you can picture a traditional step ladder, it's going to reduce the footprint of that ladder. So it's going to bring your work surface a lot closer to you. The other thing is what you can see is, if a worker takes a traditional step ladders and they lean it against a wall, that's a finable OSHA violation. With the product that James is holding right now, the way it's designed, where the back legs are attached to the front, it's also got some locking clips. And James, I don't know if you can show those or not, but it's got two locking clips. There's one there, the black one. It's got two of those on that particular ladder. And what that does is it keeps the backside from opening up, and you're able to lean that particular ladder and be code compliant. So you're really going to kill a couple of birds with one stone. You're going to get a smaller footprint, which is going to get you closer to the work surface. And then you're going to have a ladder that can be leaned. So for those of you that were at the show last week, you're going to notice that I didn't even have my number one selling ladder or Granger's number one selling ladder at my booth. And a lot of people would say, well, you've got the show with thousands of people and you're not even showing your number one ladder. Well, the reason why I didn't show the number one ladder is simply because it's in decline. That'll become a dinosaur. And what it's going to be replaced with is actually the ladder that James was holding. The cross step ladder is certainly growing. And it's going to remove some of these obstacles. And that's why, from a compliance issue, people are going with it, because the workers out there know that they're leaning those ladders. So they want to remove that issue, and they're able to give them something that is compliant with code and just the design of that ladder. So when you start talking about some of those incidents I talked about earlier, we're going to kind of come back to the doom and gloom. A lot of the incidents are caused by overreaching. So that smaller footprint of that ladder, with the work surface being closer, is going to help prevent some of that overreaching. So when you look at the cost, typically the cost is about 10% more for that product. So on an average, 6-foot ladder, you're looking $10 or $12. So my point being is, there's not a whole lot of cost difference in what you're getting. So when we start talking about cost and competitiveness, we're actually selling a higher grade ladder, which will bring more margins, and it's a better product for that end user, So that is where we're seeing the focus on that product. And again, why I didn't even show my traditional step ladder at the booth. That was not a mistake. It was by design. We don't want to show something that's obviously dying. We want to show the future for these guys and get them educated on the future of the product. So, sorry for being winded there.
I'm sorry. Oh yeah, no worries. One of my favorite things about your ladders too is the Pro Top. All the different compartments, the magnet, the channel for conduit or a 2x4, the rubber pad on the back so you don't nick or mar up any painted surfaces or anything like that, and you get good grip with it too. But one of the features of it is how you guys have the load rating embedded into it. That way, from a compliance standpoint, as you were saying, even if these labels are a little scratched up and all that helps at least, correct?
Absolutely. Yes. You can still, the biggest thing is identifying that ladder. And that's going to give you some backside. So there's a couple of things also to pay attention to. You're going to notice the high vis green that you were showing on that top as well. So the reason why that's a high vis green is for visibility reasons. So if you're on a job site and you see somebody leaning a ladder, you can see automatically that, hey, okay, they're fine. No matter of fact, our tagline is, if it's green, it's okay to lean. So any of our products that have a high vis green top on them, that product is okay to be leaned against the wall, which we now have several of them. We've gone into we've got a leaning platform ladder as well. But James, you talked about the that top as well. It's got some patented features on there, and a lot of it is how that rubber strip is adhered. It's the same process as our shoes. That's a heat process. It's not going to come off. You've seen some knockoffs in the marketplace. Those will be riveted on and they'll tear off and things of that nature. So it's really not a real good design, but the cross step is the top is extremely functional. And we've actually won awards for that particular top, and thanks for recognizing it. So it's a great top.
You know, and one other thing that I always like to mention to account managers, and they usually don't have any idea that this is available, and that is that in Granger we actually have the labels. We have entire label kits loaded with Granger SKUs. That way, if your customers already have Louisville ladders and they get some UV radiation, scratches or anything like that, well, that's considered a violation right there. And we can simply sell your customer the replacement label kit, save them some money from, instead of having to ditch it and buy a whole new ladder instead. So that's another great feature regarding Louisville.
Absolutely. The label kits are a tremendous way to save some money overall, the longevity of that product, because what happens, to your point, James, is that the ladders are not compliant as soon as they lose their labeling. And so that's why we put the marking in the top, just like you stated as well. But a lot of people, what they don't realize is the most sought after label as far as OSHA fines go is the duty rating label. But OSHA can fine for any one of those labels being missing. So we sell a kit, and that kit's going to have every warning label that's on there. They'll have anywhere between 14 and 15 labels for that ladder. So we sell a kit that will bring that ladder back to compliance from a labeling standpoint, even though we're fully aware that OSHA typically looks for that, that duty rating label. Every single one of those labels is important, and that's why we attack it per kit that way. And actually, to be honest with you too, I've seen some generic labels in the marketplace. I do a lot of ladder inspections, and I will see from time to time the wrong label put on the wrong ladder, meaning I may see a 375 put on a 300 or a 300 on a 375. And so if something was to happen and that label is mislabeled as such, there's obviously some liability concern out there. So we really take it to the extreme. And want to make sure that we keep the customers in compliance from that labeling standpoint. Again, it's the compliance issues are not something that Louisville takes lightly. From a safety aspect, there's just a lot of things that we won't do simply because of liability and compliance issues out there. So, but at the end of the day, safety remains top of our list. So.
Yeah, and that particular ladder has a 300-pound rating, and actually this Cross Pinnacle that we have here, this one actually has a 375-pound rating on it. So I'm going to just try and get this into the picture. It's a big one.
So
no, I can't get it.
Yeah, so that ladder that James has is actually our newest product, and James, if you can maybe just fold the platform down for him to see, just push it down. There you go. So this was one that we highlighted at the show. It was on the end of our end cap, very front and center. You probably saw us climbing that particular ladder. Basically, what that ladder does is it takes that first ladder that James had discussed, being the cross step. And then he had just mentioned the platform ladders, which we don't have one of those today, but it crossbreeds the platform ladder with the cross step ladder. So now you've got a leaning platform ladder. So you can actually access that platform when that ladder is leaning. So you can really get on top of your work surface there. The other thing is if you fold that back leg out, you've got a full scale platform ladder. And it may be too big for you to do in that area, James. I won't ask you to do that, but it'll be a full scale platform ladder as well. And then that top will have all the functionality of the other cross step as well. And then we've also got an accessory for that particular product. It's actually a gate assembly. The gate assembly is not a weight rated gate or anything else, but it's simply an added benefit that allows you to work multiple directions on that particular ladder. So, but this ladder here is the only ladder that's on the market that is a leaning platform ladder. You won't find another one out there. There's no other manufacturers doing that particular product market. So it allows you to touch a lot of customers, and that's one of the things. And James, if I jump ahead, I know it was one of the questions. What was, what's the customer base? What's the Grainger customer base? And when you look at the Grainger customer base, I know we're going to have healthcare. We're going to have, people that work on government. We're going to have, people that work manufacturing. We will have higher education. We're going to run the gamut with it. But one of the things that's consistent, and again, one of the things we talked about earlier was, what do we have in common across all those channels? We touch all of them, and I would kind of flip the script saying which ones don't use ladders, because quite honestly, they all do. And so, and in most cases, the product is pretty much the same product. It's just how do we get the application form and to point that out. But the common thread, between them all is to still lead with the safety aspect, because that safety aspect, the exposure on all those ladders is going to be the same across all those channels. So it really gives you a nice bailiwick to choose from. So like one of the things for healthcare can be challenging for us. But one of the things that cross step ladder does is, you can configure a hospital. You've got gurneys, you've got wheelchairs, you've got 2 and 3 beds in patients' rooms. So what am I getting at? Space is actually a commodity in those. And so working space. So you'll see all the crash carts, the utility carts in the hospital. Every one of them should have a cross step ladder on it, because they can lean that in the hallways and it's not taking up near as much room. And so we've been very effective leading with that into some of the healthcare markets. But that cross step too on the job site. Matter of fact, if you can bring that back up, we'll talk a little bit about that too. Again, I know you pointed out the green, but I want to talk a little bit about that V top. That V top that James is showing now, that V actually will accommodate a pole or an interior corner or an exterior corner. And you can see it's got holes in the top. If you're against the pole, you can run a ratchet strap around it and cinch that thing up. So that particular idea for construction is very, 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 very keen. And you'll notice it's a 14-inch top cap, and most centers are 16 inches. So you can actually get into an open studded wall with that particular ladder if need be. So it's a pretty cool design overall. And I hate to keep coming back to it, but I think it gives you a good picture of the gamut of the industry that we cover within Grainger. So like I said, the consistency between them all is that, yes, they all use the products. And then there's going to be the common thread from the safety, again, tying in with the safety month again and driving that. So, one of the things that always comes up when we talk about safety too in these sellers is going to be, okay, what do we do? Well, we told you about, how OSHA rates incidents. There's a couple of things that I want to point out under the training is people always ask, why do we train? Well, OSHA states that anybody that climbs a ladder has to be ladder safety trained. Okay. So the reason why you train is because you have to. OSHA states it. So the other thing is that comes up under there is going to be a inspection. Why do you inspect? And the answer is the exact same as Why do you train? OSHA requires it. Now, what a lot of people don't understand too, James, is that when do you inspect the product? It's a very, very, very valid question. And most people say, hey, my guys do it once a month. Some say once a year, which is probably more than most. But the facts are that OSHA requires the ladder to be inspected prior to every use. So a lot of people just don't recognize that. So what we're doing and what you put up on the screen right now, you're going to see the tie into safety month. So part of what we're doing is we want as many people trained as possible. So if you set up a selling or safety seminar with one of the end users, we're going to capture the end users during that presentation, and then they're all going to qualify for a t-shirt. So it's a nice give, and you can see what we've done, some of the safety with the high vis, just like we've done on the top of the cross step. That's the tie in there. But safety month, driving that with t-shirts is a nice takeaway for us too. Now, what you're going to see, and it's kind of over your left shoulder, is the Climb Academy. That's one of the things that we use for safety. That's kind of antiquated now due to all the resources available on the internet and the YouTube and things of that nature. But it still works very well. But the Climb Academy is simply an acronym. The C stands for choose. It's going to be choose the right ladder. Fiberglass versus aluminum. The step versus the extension. The L is going to look at the ladder. That's the inspect process that we're talking about. The I is going to be ensure a safe ladder setup. It'll go over, hey, working around the door frame, maybe locking that door or cording it off with safety tape or things of that nature. The M is going to be move safely, maintain 3 points of contact. And then last but not least will be the B, a safety expert, not a statistic. And it will go over just some generalities of that. But it goes over the do's and don'ts of the ladders. Obviously, it uses our product, but it's not a sales presentation because, you have Louisville Ladder. You can do this, that, or the other thing. It's very, very generic in nature. It's a great tool, and it typically takes about 30 or 40 minutes to run the video. And James, what I actually like to do is to bring in some specialty products like we have today and show those products at the end, because, you'll be surprised once you've done this, you're going to find out, that they've got some issues. So one of the things, like when I come into a facility, where I always like to start is I like to go straight to the damaged ladders. And so why do I want to go straight to the damaged ladders? Well, the damaged ladders tell a story. I can tell a lot by looking at the damaged ladders of what's going on. Do we have an abuse issue? Do we have somebody doing something they shouldn't be doing on the ladders? But the other thing is too, is one of the things you talked to me or we discussed earlier was the cost of the ladder. So what's the cost there? So if you've got a pile of 30 to 40 ladders, you can look those guys straight in the eye and go, hey, how much money you got sitting here? And so I want to take the point going to them is, what if I'm able to prevent them from getting to the pile altogether, or at least prolong them from getting to the pile? So with that being said, you've got their attention, because when you're in front of that damage pile, they can't dispute the fact that it's there. And so my whole point is use everything to your ability. You're walking past it anyway. So use it to your ability when you go in and you make that sales presentation. And so these types of things that we're doing right now in the show, it just gives me the opportunity to touch those people and let them know, hey, if you're walking by it, walk by it with a little bit of attention to the detail, because you'll be surprised at the dividends that it will pay at the end. And again, 9 times out of 10, if somebody comes in and says, hey, this is a price-driven particular situation, what I find out when I walk out of there, price is probably the farthest from their list. That once you're able to peel back that onion a little bit and get to the scheme of things, I will tell you more often than not, it's not. We've got a tremendous success story. I'll just give it a quick one. Was one with Granger and we did with Tyson. Tyson had a compliance issue. It was labels. Okay. And so what they were doing was they were power washing the labels off these ladders on a daily basis.
Ooh.
They had to label these ladders. Okay. And so you can imagine the cost of not just the label, but you also have an employee having to label these ladders. And so compound that by the hundreds of plants that Tyson's got across the nation. So it was a very, very expensive option for them. So we were able to identify that as an opportunity, and we offer what's called a logo lock process, where we were able to put the duty ratings into their into their ladders. Now, it's a permanent process, and it does not replace the labels themselves, but you could still identify the ladder, which was really big for Tyson at the end of the day, because they felt that they were going to avoid quite a bit. So, and again, you're talking about taking the negatives and turning them to positives based upon simple things. So hopefully I addressed your question there, but again, roundabout way of getting there.
Yeah, and regarding the types of customers, just this past week here, I was out in the field with a local government account manager. We went to a prison, and they were very interested in ladders and ladder safety training. Went to a college campus, again, very interested. Public Works, they were like, "Oh, we use manhole ladders all the time." Like, "Hey, we got you covered there too." So the applications and the possible customers are pretty much everybody uses a ladder and can utilize it. And regarding the Climb Academy, actually, I'm going to have to reach out to you guys here very soon, because these are our last two that we have in our office. I've been mailing out so many leading up to the Granger show to so many account managers from all these district team calls that I've been doing leading up to the Granger show that we pretty much have just these two left. So we need a lot more, because I want to continue to ship these out to account managers. So anybody watching this, if you want one of these free ladder safety training DVDs, just reach out to myself and I'll make sure to get one sent out to you. Just provide me the address that you want it sent to, and we'll get that taken care of. Now, regarding something that you mentioned earlier, ladder safety training on site. You mentioned that you go out into the field and you will do these types of trainings. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Do we have like a national program where we can go out anywhere in the U.S. to do these ladder safety trainings and assessments?
Absolutely, James. We like to qualify the leads, because obviously it's hard for us to go out for 6 pizzas. I just need to be upfront, especially when we have overnight travel and things of that nature. So we need to be realistic of the expectations. But yes, it is something that we do. And typically, what we will do is people will ask me. They get a little bit nervous sometimes about the ladder inspection process. But it's I don't know why they get nervous about that. It's because at the end of the day, we're really not trying just to come in and replace all the products that somebody has. And I think that's kind of the reservation that they have. But we will come in and basically say, hey, this is why a ladder is good or it's bad. And we will not tag anything being good. And the reason for that is let's just say I come and I did a ladder inspection, and I had marked them good and bad. Okay. So now you're the user that comes up, and you walk up and you find the ladder, and you find it's marked good. What is that going to do to you? You're going to bypass the inspection. And that's what I told you, that everybody's got to inspect that ladder. So you're going to see it's good. I don't need to inspect it. So that's the sole purpose why we will never mark it as good. Now we'll mark them as bad all day long, because number one, we don't want somebody on a unsafe ladder. But B, number two, sometimes it's just a compliance issue as a label. Hey, get a label on this and put it back in service. Sometimes it's just clean the ladder. But yeah, it's something that we do. And again, when I mentioned, like when I come in, I want to lead with that, and then we're going to go into compliance issues. And so I actually have what I'm going to call a acronym for TIA. It's train, inspect, and assess. And that train and inspect, you heard me talk about earlier. Why do you do those? simply because you have to. So an assessment is, again, you heard me mention Tyson. Tyson was one that we went in, and it's done two different ways. We actually assess, on site how the product's being used, and we may see somebody using a ladder, where they have two people and they need a twin step ladder, or maybe they're leaning a ladder they shouldn't. So we'll make an assessment and get them the right products. But the other thing too is, a lot of times I can do that assessment straight from that damaged ladder pile. That damaged ladder pile will tell a story. You can look at the cracked fiberglass. You can see basically, anytime you see a broken spreaders, most of the time the spreaders just don't break. That's a sign of abuse in most cases. And so you have to be a little bit careful there, because a lot of times, people take offense, when you tell them that, hey, they're abusing their products. You have to kind of treat that kind of carefully. But you also have to be real with them too, saying that this is something that you probably need to address long term. And so, it's kind of a chess match with them at that point, to be honest with you, because most of the time they're saying, my guys don't do this. But you ever heard the expression "ball don't lie"? That's the same type of story. It doesn't lie. But you just have to be cautious in your approach there. But the what's nice about the Climb Academy too is it's got a certificate of completion when it's done, so that they could put it in their employee file and keep it for the records that they train. Because what's interesting with OSHA, James, is that they don't tell you exactly what their training consists of. They'll say everybody has to be ladder safety trained, but they don't say what or why. We do know that they accept our training, because I have OSHA trainers that actually ask us for our training modules. And so we do know they accept it, but it's never really spelled out. So it's kind of everybody's guess. So, but ours is pretty much a wild card. But it, again, it's not a sales presentation. It goes over, just general information. And so to do a typical good safety seminar, it takes, I would say about 30 minutes to an hour. And then what we like to do too, and I encourage the sellers to do this, is do a ladder inspection. Because the ladder inspection, typically we're going to find something wrong. Because at the end of the day, let's face it, I said, they're looking to ring their meal ticket. They're not going to get their meal ticket punched by just doing free ladder inspections all the time. You're going to have to get something out of it for your benefit long term. And we kind of bet on the come with that. So, and then people ask us too, will we do training for my competitors? We will do training on my competitor's product. We just expect to, moving forward, to have an agreement that, hey, we'll get the business moving forward. That's kind of our agreements when you ask about, some of the parameters that we do. And people ask me if I inspect my competition's ladder if I'm on site. Absolutely, I will. Now, I can't get replacement components or things of that nature for their products, but at the end of the day, we're there to do a job for them, and it's to make sure that they're safe. So I certainly will inspect our competitor's product as well. But again, go ahead.
I was going to say, but we could help them with replacement parts for their Louisville ladders and help them out with that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So great. Thank you so much for going through all that. We got a lot of resources available to you and your customers, Granger. So whether it's our free Climb Academy or ladder safety training on site, again, it depends on the opportunity. We have to vet these out beforehand. But also in the QR code right below me here, if you scan that, that will take you to our YouTube channel, the Louisville YouTube channel, the online version of Climb Academy on the Louisville website. So some additional resources available there. So scan that QR code. That way you can utilize those as well. Is there anything else you want to say before we wrap things up here, Tom?
No, other than I really appreciate the opportunity. To me, this is a very good informational tool and just trying to make people more comfortable selling ladders, because I can tell you in my experience over the years is, I've got some people that will sell ladders very well. And I've got some people, if you ask them if they sell ladders, you kind of get a, And it's the guy that does is the one I'm really interested in, and I'll ask him why he doesn't sell the ladder so much, and I'll tell you the overall consistency is, it's a couple of things. Number one, he's had this nose bloodied by a Home Depot or Lowe's or something he didn't know how to overcome, and bottom line is that's a different product, and most of the time it's a different duty rating, and the guy just didn't recognize it. But the second thing is he simply just doesn't know the ins and outs. And so it's our job to provide that training. And so I love these opportunities just to provide a little bit of a backdrop. I mean, just enough to make them dangerous, because if you're focusing in like on the traditional step ladders anyway, we're missing on tomorrow's market. And that's where we need to focus. So we really appreciate the opportunities. And like I said earlier, the shows are a tremendous avenue for us, in particular, with Grainger, just because the amount of people that come through, and nothing makes me happier than finding an individual in there who really doesn't know much about the product. And then you're able to spend a little bit of time with them, and then they leave. But my favorite thing is when they'll bring the rest of their district back, and they'll bring 6 or 8 people with them. And then next thing you know, they said, hey, can you explain this to my team? And that to me speaks volumes, because they felt comfortable enough to say, hey, we're missing something here, so we're doing our job. So the problem is there's just not enough opportunity to do that on a daily basis. But it's I love that part of our job, so.
Excellent. Yeah, it's one of my favorite things too, as far as talking to the sales force about the transition of step ladders to platform ladders, the benefits of going to a platform ladder, and all of that. So, thank you so much for your time today, Tom. With that, we're going to wrap things up. Our next live stream interview will be next Friday, March 10th. And that will be with Spico Technologies. So we'll be getting into the world of video surveillance equipment and commercial audio equipment. So if you have any customers that are looking to beef up their security or their communications at their facilities, this would be a good one for you guys to check out. And again, if you have any interest in the Climb Academy, ladder safety training, or anything like that, you can reach out to myself or Tom Kessler, who I'm going to add his contact information here, as well as my own onto the screen. So Tom Kessler, not the Tom that we have on the call here today, but you would reach out to him or myself if you have any additional needs for your Grainger customers. So again, Tom, thank you so much for joining us. Why don't you rock out to some ZZ Top this afternoon, and we'll talk to you very soon.
Absolutely. Thanks, James. We appreciate it.
Thank you.